What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the possibility of a Banishers Ghosts of New Eden 2, or just simply continuing the franchise. I actually used to make a lot of videos like this, talking about future games, whether we're going to get them or not in a franchise. For whatever reason, I stopped, but you know what? I thought this is a more under the radar, right? Kind of a niche audience kind of thing. Maybe this would work. Maybe people would want to hear this. And let me start off by saying this. Why do we need more? You could say, hey, they made a fantastic game. They did so well, and I would agree with that. You could say, well, hey, this is maybe Don't Nod on the up and up. Like, maybe they can take these lessons and put it towards, a different kind of game. All true. Like, really, it's hard to argue with that kind of stuff. I would just throw in, they did nail it. They do have, in my opinion, what could be a franchise. I think there is now... What they did so well in this game really was establish lore. Now, they did so many other things, right? I think the story is really, so well written. The characters, Red and Antea, and really a lot of characters, not just them, but they are excellent. They are elite characters in the gaming industry, and they did an incredible job. So I guess what I would say is, again, it's more about the lore and what they established on top of just the base story that they did. They made Banishers, right? Like the lore of Banishers. They made an entire thing. Now, you could pick up where this game left off, right? Now, again, we're going to go into spoilers here, okay? Ready? So 3, 2, 1, here we go. Now, look, you have the different options, so it would be pretty tough. In fact, and I think in my review, maybe I tried to liken this game, at least in some ways, to Life is Strange. Almost immediately, it kind of comes off where it's like, oh, this is a Chloe situation, right? You're either going to be able to kill Antea off or, have her survive. And, it's not exactly like that, but just hear me out. The reason I brought that up, in my head at least, was... oh, if you made a sequel and you wanted these characters, you're stuck. You're actually kind of screwed. Same way that you're really stuck for Life is Strange. Maybe that's why there's never been another Life is Strange game with Max, at least Max, right? Because you have to make the decision of, are we just going to take the one character, or do you want both? And then you have to choose an ending. You have to make an ending canonical, which, you left it up to the audience to choose that. It's not necessarily even your choice anymore. It's more the audience choice. So I think you notice that quite easily and honestly quite early in this game. So in terms of like a direct sequel, and that's why I say like Banishers Ghosts of New Eden 2 versus, or just like a sequel or another game in the franchise, because firstly, New Eden is literally a place, right? So like, are they gonna have another ghost or haunting problem? Odds are not very high. Would you use the same cast? Odds are also not very high. I love them, again, and, no matter what, Red makes it, right? So it's like you could always use him for something, but, again, it really is a Life is Strange situation, which was also Don't Nod, where it's like, all right, now you're going to have to choose which ending. And to be honest with you, I chose the Antea ascending option. I felt that was right, and, watching that cutscene and seeing it play out, I feel in my heart that was the right choice. I do wonder what do they have an answer? Do they have a canonical answer in their head? Or do they have stats to show that maybe 70% chose that versus 30% bringing her back to life? I don't know, and I'd love to actually see, if we even get that, in the future. But that would really hurt. That would really hurt, I guess, the future prospects of the, future games, I guess, right? Because you can't put it in the same location, but that's okay. In fact, that moves us on, right? Well, what can you do? You put it somewhere else. To be flat out honest with you, you can pick a different time period. You can pick different characters. You can pick a different location. In that way, and I said this again in terms of like atmosphere and even just like the look or even like the time period of the game, it reminds me a lot of Plague Tale. Plague Tale Innocence, Plague Tale Requiem. Now, that one also kind of has a dilemma because they have to choose whether they want to keep using Amicia or whether they want to, go present day, use a new character. This does remind me of that, but actually I think this one has an easier out. I think because Amicia is so good and they've really just put so much on her and, Hugo and just the way the storytelling in Plague Tale is, this game is different. Banishers is different, and I think in this situation, you do not have to have it be the same characters. The idea is literally this group of people that are basically ghost hunters. They go around, they figure stuff out, they blame people, they ascend people, they banish people. That's their job. You know what I mean? And from the sound of it, it sounds like Banishers have been a thing for quite a long time, even in this game, New Eden. And you could have it take place in the same time. You could have it take place, obviously, a different location. If you want to do, like I said, something with Red, I think you could do it. But overall, in terms of does it actually work? Like, to answer that question, to kind of move off of it, would a second game work? It absolutely would. And I think it is better suited for a second game versus another Don't Nod game in Life is Strange, or a game that it does kind of remind me of a Plague Tale, right? I think this game is actually set up for more entries. Again, not same character, not same location, but I think it is set up better than really those two other franchises. Not saying it's the better game, but definitely I think set up better. So I guess, okay, moving off of that, right, does it make sense for the game itself to have more? I think so. I think they have something really special. I think it can be replicated. I think you can tell different stories with different characters, with other different characters, for side stuff. I think you absolutely could. You probably would have to work out a different dynamic because so much of this game was built off of the, love relationship, I guess, between Antea and Red, and, them kind of struggling with their conundrum, and that very much reflected off of it versus everybody else, right? So when they're doing the main mission, when they're doing side stuff, like, you can see a lot of them in other things that are going around, and I think that's purposeful, right? So you'd have to mess with that actually quite severely, right? You'd have to do something differently. But the other question, and maybe it's the bigger question, right, is from financially and from like a Don't Nod perspective, is this something that you would continue? So I guess to this, I would say just a few things. I mean, we don't know a lot of numbers. We don't know a lot of stats, right? So there's not too much you can say. But in my opinion, I don't think they're looking for it to set the earth on fire. I don't think they need it to sell 2, 3, 4, 5 million units. Now, again, you go back to another franchise in Life is Strange, and I mean, this is probably fair because, you got Remember Me and Twin Mirrors and Tell Me Why and Vampire, and if you notice, I haven't said the same franchise, like, they haven't had multiple, right? It's been just one. So an issue, but maybe not an issue, is they really only are a one and done kind of thing. Life is Strange is different, but here's the thing. Life is Strange 1, in fact, I think I even made a video about this a few months ago. Life is Strange 1 sold 20 million, no, to this day, okay? Back then, it actually still did insanely well. It's just been a game that's sold really well over the last 9 years, right? 20 million. Now, that rivals, like, big-time games that are far bigger and even talked about more than Life is Strange, okay? That is the difference. In fact, I think that's how you get a Life is Strange 2. It became a legitimate franchise. So I guess my worry in the way of, will we get another game, the way they operate generally is kind of one and done. The Bloom and Rage thing, right? Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, that, the way they've talked about it, because that kind of is their new Life is Strange, that seems to be a franchise, right? That's something that they'll tell multiple stories. But you know what? They can say that all they want. Ultimately, and I hope it does well, by the way, I'm not like putting it down, but they can say it now all they want. What it comes down to, though, is the sales. If the game bombs, do you really think they're going to keep going with it? Odds are not very high. In the gaming industry, you can't have like 2 or 3 disasters or disappointments for sales in a row. Your studio gets shut down. It just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You can't take as many risks in gaming as you can elsewhere. So for Banishers, it might literally come down to sales. If the game sells, 500,000, million, again, the issue is we don't know how much money. I will say, in terms of like slightly negative or, slightly in that direction, the game is massive. Now, I don't know the budget, but like it screams that it cost a lot. And that's just my assumption. It screams that it seems like a pretty big game. Like the world is massive, lots of characters, it's like a 20 to 30 hour game if you do everything. Life is Strange is like 10 hours max, and that's if you do and you read and you take it all, which I did multiple times, but it's like a 10-hour game. This is like 20 hours if you rush, and it's like 25 to 30 if you do everything. And I'm only saying that because I imagine it costs a lot of money. I don't know that, and hopefully they use money wisely. And we have had those situations happen, right? But we also have situations happen where, put in the wrong hands, a game like this might for some reason cost the studio like $100 million. Do I think it costs? No. I don't think it costs that much for them. But in the wrong hands, it might cost $100 million. Maybe if you're using money really wisely and you got all, everything kind of lined up, maybe it doesn't cost that much. Maybe it costs, 10, 20, 30, $40 million, right? And obviously the difference there is many sales. You don't need to sell as many if the game costs, 25 million versus 100. So I hope the game does well enough. I hope we get to see some sort of sales figures. The issue, again, to me, or the main issue is it is just a very under the radar thing. And It comes out, comes out close to a lot of other games. It comes out a few weeks before Final Fantasy, comes out in the same stretch with like Skull and Bones. I don't know how many people, are going to pit this game and Skull and Bones, but comes out right after Infinite Wealth and Persona, and Helldivers is big. And these are all different games, by the way, for different audiences. I totally understand that. But this game does, to me, look like an under-the-radar kind of thing. So I don't think this game is going to go out there and sell 3-4 million. I just really don't believe that. So it's just, will they make their money back? And, if they make enough, is that enough to make future games? I hope it is, because I think this game is awesome. I love it. It's probably going to be a top 5, top 10 game of the year for me at the end of the year. You can maybe mark that down, I'd say, for sure. I love it. So I would absolutely take more of it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.